Hey guys, Rat Performance here. We're going to be doing a wheel bearing on a 2016 Chevy Silverado. So we already took off the wheel. So now we'll just show you the process. We're going to have to take out the axle nut. The rotor has to come out, the caliper and the caliper bracket, in order for us to get the access to pull out the hub that also houses the studs. So first thing you do, obviously, you're going to jack up the car, make it safe with stands, pull off the wheel. Now we're going to tackle into the caliper change. So if you're curious too, this is how we're going to change the brake pads. We're going to have it all apart. We're going to put new pads in, and we'll probably just deglaze the rotors because the rotors are relatively new, and we'll put a new set of pads in. So the first thing when you're going to attempt this, you're going to take out the caliper bolts, and on this it's a 19 millimeter. Caliper will come out. Be great if you got one of these hooks that keeps it nice and safe out of the way, so you don't have to deal with it when you're working. Okay, so now we have to take the bracket off, and the bracket is an 18 millimeter. And get yourself a long wrench. You may need a breaker bar because they are difficult to come out. So those were a little tough, but that's, especially if you haven't taken them off. If it's a factory car, you'll definitely need a breaker bar. These are the bolts. We put them back. We'll always put anti-seize on everything and torque them down. And the pads come out with it. We'll leave it on the side until we're ready to clean it up and change the pads. We're gonna take off the rotor. There's a torque spit here, a T30 torque spit. So we're gonna hold it with the pry bar. We're gonna hold this from spinning so we can crack that bolt previously. So hopefully it doesn't fight me. It may be hard or it may be easy enough. So there it goes. So this one came out. If you have an issue, get an impact driver that holds sockets, and you can put this on an impact driver, and when you hammer it in, it'll force the impact to go counterclockwise. It'll make it easier for you. So, but I always put these back with a ton of anti-seize. And there's the bolt. Okay, put him on the side. We're gonna clean him later. So we got the big 35 millimeter axle nut that'll have to come out, and we have three 15 millimeter bolt heads for the hub bearing. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna spray down everything with WD-40, clean it with a wire brush, let it soak, and we'll hop back on this guy to give it time to hopefully free up, and I won't have to give us. We're just cleaning the stick, what sticks out of the bolt. So the bolt comes through the back, sticks out here. Definitely lubricate these, scrub them down now, because as you drag it through, you're just gonna hurt yourself and create a problem. So just take time. I already sprayed it with WD, so now I'm cleaning it, and then I'm gonna spray more WD-40. It's real, it saves you a lot of heartache. So I'm going to spray it down again and let these sit. Okay, let's go for the win. point, so it's fine. It doesn't quite so we have our axle nut off. We're gonna put a new one. These are locking nuts, so once they're used, you should really put new ones. You have a thick washer here for it, so we're gonna reuse that. We'll save those. And while everything's still, we're gonna check the axle to make sure that we could push it in off of the splines, and this is good. If not, you would take a brass hammer or a brass drift and hit this in to free it up. If you didn't have that, you can put the nut back on and use the nut as the face of the hammer if you only had a sledgehammer, being that you're going to change this anyway, because you don't want to damage the axle. We're not changing the axles. So this is good because this is loose. I could hear it. So when we disconnect the hub, it should pop right out. Along with the hub is this wiring harness. So we're going to start taking this out now. So once we take out the bolts, we're good to go with the wiring harness. So I'm going to use an interior tool that I use for the exterior of everything here. And this makes a great tool for all these pieces. That it makes it real easy to pop everything off of the clips. Pops right out. And this pops here. Okay. So we got him. He's going to do the buckets. If you want to do that for me, that'll be great. Maybe don't need your help in the back. Did that work? Oh wow, awesome. Okay. Okay, so I just got to do this guy. If he lets me. We'll just get this harness out of the way. So this harness comes with the hub. So now we're going to attack the hub to see if we can break it free.
This thing is the best tool I've ever
Yeah, I'll take it like 2 more.
I think this is the one from eBay too, and I still think this works great. That's your one bolt. Very rusty. And
Yeah. So this is why we lubricate it and clean it, because you see that this tip sticks out and it gets rusted. The rest of it's fine, but that would just gall the threads on the way out and it'll just create a problem. You got all 3 bolts out. These are not really press fit, so a couple taps with the sledge, it should come out. Again, just make sure that the axle moves, so we're gonna have to move it for this because the axle's tight. There you go. So now you got a little more room there to move this. So now, this is a bad bearing anyway, so you can hit it really any way you want, but we're just gonna tap it to get it loose from either side, and it's already starting to move. Just be careful of your fingers and your toes. If you're here, it is heavy, it'll drop right down. this axle was a lot tighter than the other one because it was vibrating the crap out of it. Yeah, I feel it here. There we go. And there it is. We're gonna reuse the dust shield, and we're definitely gonna clean this where it's all rusted in here. So we'll definitely clean this whole area up, and this dust shield too we'll take out. So the new bearing will come with the whole harness. That's absolutely, you could tell the other one, everything was loose. You know? It was vibrating like hell. Okay. So we're gonna clean everything up. Everything is junk. We got everything cleaned up. We cleaned the flange here because it gets rusted. We even cleaned inside to make it easier for the new bearing to go in. So now it's just a point of reassembly. I cleaned this out, I blew it out with air and the threads here. I will put a little bit of white grease on this, just a touch around here to make it nice and easy for the new hub to go on. And I'll put a dab of anti-seize. Even though the new lock nut has built-in Loctite, I always like to put a little bit of anti-seize on it. Up to you if you want to do it or not, but that's how I do it. And we're going to put anti-seize in all these bolts as they're coming through. So we're going to get started with that with the new hub. Just be mindful of the harness when you're putting it back. And then just push in, make sure it gets to the splines, and then it drops right in. And we'll make sure everything is aligned still. We'll get the harness out of the way, and we can start with our bolts, and I put anti-seize on them, just to start them and get it aligned.
Guys, we're going to turn the wheel, torque the front. These are 133 foot-pounds.
So now we're going to grab the torque
130.
wrench. So we got a new lock nut, as we said, and this is 177 foot-pounds, and this takes some effort. So just make sure you have a wrench, and just to start it, we're going to use the ratchet, because the lock nut, it takes forever to get it down. So to take our washer. I don't like using the impacts for this, either on or off. Do as you wish. I think you're better off just using a ratchet. I'm waiting to see the car lift. Oh man, there you go, man. Is it easier to pull up?
Here's my back.
Torqued hub, torqued axle nut. We're gonna finish putting the harness back. Okay, the harness is back, the clip is back with the lock. Basically, we're just gonna prep the rotor. We're just gonna deglaze it, and then we're gonna put new pads on for it, and then we're gonna get everything back assembled. So we got the rotor deglazed. We're just gonna clean it. So we'll let it hang here. Clean them all down. Make sure it's nice and clean. Try not to touch it with your hands after it's clean. The surface. So now we're gonna go back here. So we'll let that dry. We got two things. We're gonna put anti-seize on the hub, and that screw that goes back, we'll make sure we'll put anti-seize and line it up. You go to pull it off the next time, because these things always rust. Okay, close. So now torque's 30. Always put some more on it. Make sure it's never in there too tight or it's gonna rust. Just make it a little bit tight, not too much. We don't torque it. To me, there's absolutely no reason to make that bolt too tight, because you'll never get it out again. Shame on me. I'm going to clean it again. It was we got our cage for the brake pads. I always take a sanding stone to the mating surfaces. Make sure there's no burrs. It has to sit nice and flat. Just another extra step, but just make sure when you're bolting this down and torquing it, everything's nice. Okay, so now we're gonna put our little keepers in. These will come with the brake pads. It all varies on the type of car you have, but for this case, they're all the same, the Silverados. Guy's ready to go. So what we're going to do right now, we got to get the caliper ready. So we're going to compress the pistons in the caliper. So I'll actually let that do the work for me. I'll bring it up to here so I don't have to fight it. Okay, the rotor's compressed back. I'm just gonna hit this with the same sanding stone, just on the edges here. Any rust or any flash, you just take it off. Make sure everything is nice and flat. You could turn the wheel like we did now just to get better access to it. So these are the bolts for it. These are the 18 millimeter. We're gonna put a little more anti-seize on them just to make sure everything's fine. And then we're gonna torque them down. So we're going to torque those bolts that go to the steering knuckle for the cage, 170. This thing gets torqued down to. Then the caliper is much less. It's only 70. Now we can go ahead and set our pads in, and then we can drop the caliper on. You got the flat side, put it in the back. The one in the front has a hump. Just like that. We can unhang our caliper. Always make sure it goes in. You don't want to bind anything. Then we got our caliper bolts. Again, we're going to make sure that's in. These get torqued down to 70. There we go. We got everything back. We're just going to turn the wheel straight and we'll just mount our tires back. But that's it. So we have our brand new hub bearing and all the torque specs. Please like and subscribe. Any comments or questions you can put down in the description, and I'll get back to you if you have any questions about what we use or other parts. Have a good one.